We've had 6 resolutions that would really bring Assad to justice, call Syria out for chemical weapons. 6 resolutions vetoed by Russia. So you have a member who has used chemical weapons. You have a country, Russia, who's helped them cover up the use of chemical weapons. And we have a violation of international law. So what else are we supposed to do? And then another chemical weapons attack happens. And here they're going to attempt to say it's fake. At some point, you have to do something.
All right, the question is what that something will be. UN Ambassador Nikki Haley wasn't tipping her hand. The White House staying mum on the subject, just that a response, or the decision on response could be forthcoming. We don't know what that response could be. To former State Department deputy spokesman, former U.S. Ambassador to Bahrain, Adam Ereli. Ambassador, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
I know I'm sounding like someone who is part of that black helicopter crowd here. Are we unequivocally sure, sir, that the chemical weapons alleged to have been used were in fact used by Assad? That, in other words, he orchestrated this attack and this isn't some elaborate ruse to attack him?
Well, if it was an elaborate ruse, the elaborateness would be unprecedented. Look, I think the evidence from the victims, the biological evidence that they've done, they've taken urine and hair samples and saliva samples. They've tested them in labs. It's kind of like the case of the Russians poisoning their agents in London. All indicators point to Assad and the Syrian regime. It's not the first time they've done this. They have a long history of doing this. So we've really seen this movie before. I think anybody casting doubts on Assad's responsibility is trying to cover up for him.
All right, and you might be right on that, and I know the French have confirmed this. They're right in that neck of the woods. They've confirmed it themselves, so their intelligence tells them that's the case. I'm just reminded about the whole thing with President Bush and the weapons of mass destruction, and we thought for sure they were there in Iraq, and they weren't, and I'm wondering other parties that would be interested in seeing this escalate. And then I'm thinking to myself, why the heck would Assad risk the wrath of the United States, knowing full well that's exactly what he would get in doing this?
Well, does he really know that? The fact of the matter is he used them a year ago. We launched 56 Tomahawks against an air base from which he delivered the weapons. It obviously didn't have the deterrent effect that we had intended, because a year later he uses them. Again, the calculation being that I can weather whatever U.S. throws at me if they throw anything at me. Because 3 days before he did this, Trump said he wanted all our troops out of Syria. So Assad saying, wow, I've got open field running now.
So that might have been the precipitant, right? I know the president,
look,
or might have been. We don't know, right?
It's wrong to blame any American official for a war criminal's use of chemical weapons. Assad made that decision because he's an animal. It had nothing to but I think if he's calculating what price am I going to pay, and he hears American officials looking for the exits in Syria, like I said, he sees himself as having open field running. And that is why, make no mistake, we must act, and we must act hard and in a way that leaves him no doubt that the price that he pays for using chemical weapons will be intolerably high, and he never does it again.
Do you think the price might be his life, that whatever we're contemplating includes wiping him out?
I doubt it. I wish it were. But that might be a bridge too far. I think the reason this is taking so long, and again, I think it's a question of when we attack, not if we attack. But the reason it's taking so long is our nation's leaders, conferring with foreign counterparts, are deciding what are the objectives of this strike. What do we want to accomplish? Do we want to take down the regime? I doubt it. Do we want to prevent Assad from having the capability of delivering chemical weapons in the future? That sounds much more likely. But to do that, you have to ask a second question. What do we need to hit?
But it would have to be more than we did last year, right? It can't be a one and done, hit an air base and be done with it.
Night and day.
So do you think that part of what we're looking at here is a coordinated response, either with the The French, the British, the
French,
Australians
the
have been
British,
mentioned. What do you think?
The Australians. We're telling the Turks to stay out of the way, and we're trying our best to deconflict with the Russians. One other point I need to make. Lost in the discussion about this chemical weapon strike is Iran. Let's be clear. The road to Tehran starts in Damascus. If we want to constrain Iran, which we have said is the biggest danger to the United States in the region, we have to go after Assad, because Assad is kept in power by Iran, and the people of Iran it's driving them crazy. Interesting data point for you. In the last week, the value of the Iranian currency fell 35%. It's fallen over 50% in the 3 years since Rouhani has been or the 5 years since Rouhani has been in office. Iran is on the verge of economic collapse. We need to strike Syria, to strike at Iran, and to defeat its extremism, which got us to this position in the first place.
All right. We'll see what happens. Maybe this weekend we'll have a better idea. Ambassador, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.